You want to know why your pack is so heavy? This is why. You're packing too many clothing layers for the trips that you're going on. It's ridiculous to make a point. Now, a mistake that we see backpackers make pretty often is the idea that too much weight is dedicated to a clothing system or just the clothing and layers that are taken on a trip in general. And so while I'm exaggerating, I'm so hot right now, while I'm exaggerating the amount of layers that are being worn, oftentimes when we're planning a backpacking trip, we kind of segment the trip into different categories. One being on the trail and the clothing that we use on the trail, and then the clothing that we want to have for in camp, and third, the clothing that we're going to use for sleeping. And all three of those things shouldn't be separate. They should all work together to make one concise, very usable system that allows you to be comfortable and warm and safe and just protected from the elements on the trail. So let's take off all of these ridiculous layers and the number of layers that I've got on here, if I can even do that. And let's talk about how to develop a good, concise, and usable layering system for backpacking. Now, this video today is sponsored by Garage Grown Gear. If you are not familiar with Garage Grown Gear, I highly recommend checking them out. They have so many amazing options of gear items that are all from cottage vendors, people that are making gear out of their homes and garages and small shops here in the US and international as well. And the products that you can get from them are phenomenal. What I love about Garage Grown Gear is the ability to find unique gear items all in one place. Everything from small gear items to shelters and cottage-made backpacks to apparel, which is something that is really cool to find unique pieces of apparel that work really well for a layering system in the backcountry. So check out Garage Grown Gear, and you can save 10% if you subscribe to their newsletter, which saving some money is always super nice. But check out Garage Grown Gear. Absolutely worth taking a look at. Wonderful company supporting the cottage makers here in the US and international. Now, a key thing that needs to take place when you are building a layering system is to first research the weather and just what you might experience for a trip that you're going on. If I'm planning a trip in Utah, my layering system is going to be different than maybe in the Pacific Northwest or somewhere that might be more humid than where I live here. And so I'm going to adjust my layering system based off of that information, the environment and the anticipated weather. And I want to call out a YouTube friend of mine, Justin Outdoors. He recently put together a video all about how he chose a gear system anticipating a very wet backpacking trip. And being able to develop a gear system like that is really critical to not only safety in the backcountry, but being able to stay warm and dry so that you have a good experience while you're out there. So then when I'm building a layering system, I focus on three things. What can I put together that is going to provide me the opportunity to be warm, dry, and comfortable on trail, as well as in camp and while I'm sleeping? And I don't want to create too many redundancies with that, meaning I don't want to have additional layers that are just a redundant piece of the layering system that are taking up more space and weight and bulk in my pack. So if I can develop a layering system that allows me to have a system, one system that functions across all three of those conditions, then that's ideal for what I am working on. So now let's build a layering system that builds on this idea and start with base layers. One of my favorite things to wear right now is some kind of sun hoodie. And they come in all sorts of different brands and weights and such, but I really like a lightweight hoodie that makes it so I don't have to wear a lot of sunscreen or any sunscreen at all, because sunscreen is sticky and it's just messy. And so having a hood that comes over and everything is super nice, gives me that UV protection from the sun, and it's breathable, and I can also get this wet. There are flies everywhere. I can get this wet and cool myself that way. It's just a good multi-use type of thing. This is my base layer that also functions for warmth as well, because it's long sleeve and it's got a hood. For sleeping, and in the case where I might be a little bit colder, then I've got a synthetic pair or a merino wool type of thermal bottom. So I could hike in these if needed, and they're going to dry quickly, they're going to wick sweat, and they're going to be a good option for sleeping as well. So multi-use and not just a single use item. Then I've got a pair of synthetic or wool socks. Obviously you can get socks like this from many different brands, and whatever works best for you, but a good synthetic and wool blend sock is going to be ideal as part of your base layer system. Then moving on from there is your mid layers. Again, considering that on trail, how is a mid layer going to function in addition to sleeping and in camp? So a mid layer that is like this Farpoint Alpha hoodie, or like this Outdoor Vitals Ventus hoodie, a little bit different weights between these two. So depending on my conditions and such, I'll choose to carry one or the other. This one a bit lighter weight than the Ventus, so when I'm trying to maximize my warmth, then I'm going to go for this, because if I'm like 3-season backpacking and I'm in the shoulder seasons, I should say, then when I'm walking out from camp and such in the morning and it's like close to freezing to 40 degrees in temperature, this is going to be a better option, where this Alpha hoodie is going to be closer to something in the 50 to 60s, depending on what kind of stuff I am going to be experiencing. So that allows me to not only be warm and protected in camp, and while I'm sleeping I can use those layers to sleep in, but also they're going to be able to wick sweat, be an active layer while I'm on trail, and that's important as well. The next thing is your insulation, and this is less related to what you wear on trail, because I'm not going to necessarily wear an insulated piece like this on trail. This is the Enlightened Equipment Torrid that is made from the Apex synthetic insulation. So it's a sheet insulation, super warm, this thing, and it's awesome for just staying warm and comfortable and everything in camp, and also using this as an extra layer for sleeping if I need to keep myself a little bit warmer. If my sleep system doesn't quite match the conditions, I can add layers this way and make it a bit more comfortable to have this layer here. Another synthetic layer that I've been enjoying lately is the Arc'teryx Nuclei, also a synthetic option. And I've actually been enjoying synthetic layers a bit more than my down layers as of late, because they're really not that much heavier as a jacket option compared to down. And I don't have to worry so much about water and everything with those as I do with down. Now, to be totally honest, I have never gotten wet wearing my down jacket. That doesn't mean it can't happen, but it's not as big of a deal, I think, as people make it to be. But a good down jacket is an option for your insulation layer as well, for in camp and for sleeping. Now, a critical piece of gear for when you're out is a good rain and wind shell. This is something that I think you should spend a lot of time putting some research into, so that you're getting the best product for your needs. Now, here in Utah, it's not super humid. I don't have to worry about hiking in the rain all day very often. That's happened only a couple times in the last several years. And so I want to have a very lightweight, obviously a waterproof shell, but this is going to be more so for wind and protection from the cold, to just take that little bit of a cold touch off that if I put a insulated layer on, it would be too much. Having this as an option, obviously for rain protection, but also wind, and just a lightweight layer to put on top is something that is super handy. So this is the Tusher rain jacket from Outdoor Vitals, and it's breathable. It's going to keep me nice and comfortable in those conditions where I am hiking in the rain all day and not wetting out and everything. This is just having a good rain jacket is super important. Now, what about some of the one-off type of items that are necessary to help you achieve a better layering system for certain conditions, whether that is winter or the shoulder season temperatures, or you want to just be a little bit more comfortable? Well, there are things that you can bring with you. Obviously, some liner gloves, which I don't have with me, but some liner gloves or some mid-weight type of gloves are gonna be nice to keep your hands dry and warm and everything. But then there's even things that, like, I want to maximize keeping my feet as warm as possible. And so these down booties are a great way to add to that as well. These are the Goose Feet gear, and these are going to be a nice addition for just those a little bit colder nights where you want to just maximize your comfort in the tent, and sleeping with down booties on is super helpful. Other things for when you're really pushing the limits, a pair of down pants is helpful for that as well. And then something that, again, with me here in Utah, it's just not as common, but if you are in a very wet area and you find yourself hiking in the rain a lot, I would recommend a good pair of rain pants that can make all the difference in your experience and your enjoyment on trail. Just totally being soaked from head to toe is not an enjoyable experience. And so having some rain pants that keep you dry, keep you comfortable and warm as well is something that's going to make a huge difference for those situations where you find yourself on the trail when it's super wet. So again, do your research ahead of time, build a layering system that doesn't have unnecessary redundancies, and you're not making the mistake of carrying too many layers so that you are not putting so much weight into your backpack when you don't need to be doing that if you just took the time to create and build a smart layering system for your backpacking trips. I want to thank Garage Grown Gear for, again, sponsoring this video today. Please check them out. Subscribe to their newsletter. Save yourself 10% on your order. Definitely recommend checking out Garage Grown Gear. Thanks for watching today, guys. If you're not subscribed, you know what to do. Hope you have an awesome day. See you later.